So welcome to this session, Administering Alternative Assessments in MyeLearning. And hi Maria, it has its good days and bad. Yes, definitely working from home. Yeah, it could be intense. Hi guys, hi Christine. So welcome to this workshop. I know we did a couple sessions in the past with I think it was virtual learning, where we did an orientation to MyeLearning, and we looked at a whole range of things in there. And we looked at, I think if I remember, like creating groups. We looked at updating your profile, communication tools, Blackboard Collaborate. So, you know, funny that we did that in the last session, and look at us now all on Blackboard, right? So, hi Lisa. And so we're gonna get started. Well, we get started now, and we're gonna go straight into it. And right off the bat, you probably know me by now. I like to start with a sort of icebreaker. So, now the session is called Administering Alternative Assessments in MyeLearning. So I want you in the space below, and I could write on the board. You just click on the T on the left side, and you're gonna type it on the board. Or you can put it in the chat if you'd like, but preferably on the board. So when we record it, it comes out in the recording. All right. So I want you to write one thing you know about alternative assessments and or MyeLearning. All right. I'll give you about a minute for that. So feel free to write on the board. You could just click on the T icon, the text icon, and you could type. Just click on the board anywhere, and you could start typing. All right. All right. Someone said it provides a range of a range of options for assessments. It's convenient. Very good. Very good. Anybody else? It takes a different skill set to install knowledge. Very good. I like that. I like that. They work well together. What do you mean by that? The alternative assessments and MyeLearning work well together? Ah, okay, good. They facilitate quizzes. Someone said can be rigorous as traditional modalities of assessment. Oh, can be as rigorous as okay, yes, definitely I agree with that. Provides information like course materials and announcements to students. Very good. Very good. Any more? The writing is, yeah, that's why I'm reading it out for everyone. If you'd like to expand the board, let me just say it one time. You could click on the view controls on the left side, and you could click on the plus sign in the magnifying glass, right? And that will magnify it for you. Someone said discussion forums, good. Did I miss anything? Allows more flexibility. That is true. And we're in a time right now where flexibility is key, because now no one is really on campus. And students need to do these assessments remotely. So of course, that flexibility is very welcome at this point. It's a more holistic approach. What do you mean by that? Explain. You can just click on the microphone at the bottom of your screen. And okay, oh, Felicia, in terms of assessment, okay, yes, definitely, alternative assessments. And it very, Felicia, it goes beyond like what the traditional exam would probably do. And as we go later on into the session, you'll see exactly what I mean. I know I'm jumping a little bit, but you know, traditional assessments, as we know it, tend to focus on assessing the student's knowledge, while alternative assessments focus on the student's skills. Yeah. So yeah. So very good. We have some nice responses, man. I think someone's mic is on. Someone wants to say something. Prof? No? Oh, okay. All right. So as we move on, these are some of the key issues that we're going to be looking at today. In reaching out to me for this particular session, Prof and Ms. Finch kind of outlined what the vision of the session should be. So I kind of use that as the map to prepare the session. All right. So we're going to look at some key questions. Of course, what is alternative assessments? And some of it might be familiar to. Oh, you can't hear me? Anyone having audio problems? Let me just type it.
Yes, I have a problem. I can't hear.
Oh. If you let me type it. Right. Very good. Yes. Keisha, you could hear? Okay, great. So if you can't hear me, I'll just type it in the chat. You could just log out and log back in. And if you see when you're coming back in, just type it. Okay, great. So they will be coming back very shortly. So these are the main questions we're going to look at. And right off the bat, we have alternative assessments. Yes, and it allows us access to students and to communicate and so on. MyeLearning, very good. And some of you attended the previous workshop we did using MyeLearning for alternative assessments? No? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So some of this might look very familiar to you, but we want to go a little deeper. Okay. So we're going to look at alternative assessments, and then we're going to look at how it can be done in MyeLearning. And where this workshop becomes a little different from the previous one, we're going to actually, well, what I really envision is that you'll be able to build it in MyeLearning now, right? And even pick up from where that last workshop left off. And then, of course, any kind of questions you might have or concerns you might have with regard to the different issues that you create and administer your alternative assignment. All right? So right off the bat, we know the whole point of alternative assignment in terms of the context right now at the university is coming from bus. All right, that we have the mandate we cannot use any synchronous timed forms of assessments, and that would include, of course, the quiz activity, whether it's multiple choice quiz, items, true or false, or short answers. We cannot have any synchronous timed activities. That also includes oral presentations. I know that would have been a consideration at one point in time to use Blackboard for students to do oral presentations and so on. But that is not allowed under the new mandate. So, you know, we were instructed to create alternative or authentic assessments, and the assessments must be asynchronous, so they cannot be in real time, and they must have a window of opportunity within which students must submit or complete their assignments. All right, usually you're looking at 2 days to a week. All right, so for example, a good suggestion would be to give your assignment that let's say window from Monday to Friday to submit their assignments. All right. And in the event that you may need, in the rare instances where you need, let's say you have to use quizzes for whatever the nature of your assessment might be. I'm just saying, you would have to go through certain protocols, whether it's the head of the department, so I'm glad that Prof is here. I think you'll have to also liaise with boss on to ensure that you get the green light to go to do that. All right. So yeah, there are very few exceptions. It's almost like the international borders and the flights in and out of the country. So you have very few exceptions, but the general mandate is to use alternative assessments. Now, as we'll go forward in the second question, in terms of explaining what alternative assessments are, I wanted to to take you from what you might know or be more familiar with, or what the institution is accustomed to, and then into what we're moving towards. So of course, we know that traditional assessments deal more with like end of term exams, like whether they be quizzes, online quizzes, or even face-to-face exams, whether they be essays and that kind of thing. So I was saying that traditional assessments are very much like what we are used to. You have the 60-40 ratio, where they do, I think it's 40% coursework and 60% in the final exam, or something to that effect. Sometimes it might be 50-50. I know in some departments it's like 80-20. But really, when we think about it, traditional exams are really something that is being phased out in 21st century education. For the most part, in those situations, especially as we go more into blended or online education, the traditional thing is really like TXC or CSEC or common entrance or SEA and that kind of thing. You go in a physical classroom, you have the supervisor really looking and making sure everything is on point, and then that kind of thing. And you have exam settings basically, and of course, you start at the same time, you finish at the same time. But now we live in such a world, especially with this ongoing global pandemic and the closure of the university and so on, where we have to make adjustments. It's really this is a period of adjustment. And so we are adjusting, thankfully, to alternative assessments. And alternative assessments really, when we think of alternative assessments or authentic assessments, we think of assessments that are more, strange enough to say, authentic, in the sense that they are tied to some real life thing, whether it's a real life scenario, whether it's like a case study, for example, whether it's a skill that you're looking at in particular, and that's what makes it authentic. You think authentic, you think real, right? And so this is why we want to push for alternative or authentic assessment. All right. So authentic assessments could be anything ranging from projects, e-portfolios, creating a website, creating a wiki, could be creating a video presentation and whatnot. And the students can do these things remotely and online or virtually. And just to compare the two of them for you, so these are what we call authentic assessments. Sorry. Just maximize this. Right. So these are what we call alternative or authentic assessments, right? They focus on the skill, and it's usually tied to something in real life. So let's say, for example, you give a hypothetical situation, or you give some sort of project-based task assessment. All that is under the umbrella of authentic assessments or alternative assessments, right? And to compare the two for you, we see here, as I mentioned earlier, where traditional assessments focus really on knowledge. So look at the bottom here. So the goal is to measure knowledge, right? It's all about what students know. But then alternative assessments focus on what students can do, right? It measures the skills, right? Or the goal is to develop a skill set. All right? Any questions on that? No? All right. And so this is the whole dichotomy we have, the whole paradigm shift from traditional assignment assessments to alternative forms of assessments. And I really hope that we continue in this direction, because this is the direction that not just online or blended learning, teaching and learning, but also 21st century education is going. And I think in this department in particular, it might be more worthwhile as well, because you don't want to just recall knowledge or facts, but you want to also see how they could apply these facts or the knowledge in different scenarios. All right, so just a point to note. So as we go forward, like I said, there are different types of alternative assessments, whether you want them to do a online presentation. Of course, this cannot, under the current situation or mandate, these cannot be synchronous, but they can do pre-recorded presentations, whether it's group or individually. They can do portfolios, they can do case study analyses, and that sort of thing. So the range, you have more flexibility, and I know we mentioned flexibility with the previous, with the icebreaker activity earlier. You have more flexibility with MyeLearning, yes, but you also have more flexibility with alternative assessments. And really, when we think of so now that we know what it is, how do we create it? What's the next step? And really, to create an alternative assessment, these are the things that you want to consider. 4 basic things, right? Consider your learning objectives, right? And out of your learning objectives, or it might be 1 or 2 out of the whole list that you're focusing on, you want to create a prompt. And the prompt really refers to instructions. What are you going to tell students? What do you want students to do? Well, you know what you want students to be able to do by the end of your course, which would be the learning objectives. So in other words, now that you establish a goal, now what do you want students to, what are you going to tell students so that they accomplish that goal? Yeah? In other words, what are you going to tell students they need to do in order to accomplish that learning objective? Right? So if I tell you the goal is really to reach to the airport, even though it's closed at this point, but the goal is to get to the airport, that's the learning objective. Then the next thing would be for me to give you instructions or directions to get to the airport, right? It might be get dressed, find your car key, bounce your starter, go on the highway or reverse out of your garage. Highway, you take a right by Grand Bazaar, you drive straight, you take another right by Bagwan Singh. You understand? So you give instructions. Now, as you go later on, I'll tell you that the instructions need to be, or the prompt, they need to be very specific, all right, or clear. After that, you want to consider how a student's going to do it. In other words, what is the platform that you want them to use? Platforms, it might be MyeLearning in conjunction with other things, right? And of course, at the end of it all, you want to be able to assess it, and assess it in a more objective way by creating what we call a rubric, right? And you would know, like, rubrics would have like KPIs, for example. So we'll get into that in just a bit. So as we focus now on the prompt, like I said, the prompt focuses on the instructions, and it really tells the student what they need to do. Now, the prompt must be very specific, or the instructions must be very specific. So if I tell you to get to the airport, you need to go, if you're coming from south, you need to go straight up the highway to Grand Bazaar, take a right by Grand Bazaar, and you go all the way down until you see Bagwan Singh's on your left, and you take that right, right? Or you see the I think it's Piaco Plaza, and you take a right, and that kind of thing. But if I were to tell you to go through a shortcut like Carney Back Road and so on, it might be a little more complex or confusing for some persons who may not know, who may not be aware of the back roads and that kind of thing. So you want your prompt to all clear and concise. The whole goal of a prompt is to avoid confusion, right? So far so good, guys?
Yes.
Great. So let me ask a question now. What is one way you would verify that your prompt is not confusing, or that your prompt is clear? And this is just, I'm asking based on your experience or your normal practice. Is it that you just create a prompt and give it to students, or do you over or share it with somebody? What do you do?
Justin, I think one way is that we could consider what the prompt is asking within the context of uh, the marking scheme that we've developed for the question.
Very good.
Lead them to that.
Very good. I like that because and Randy, what you're saying there makes perfect sense because it links everything. It makes sure that everything is connected. So you have your learning objectives, and then you have your rubric, for example, which is what you're going to be assessing the thing. But you need to also have, of course, and I guess before you create your rubric, you want to make sure you create a solid prompt, right? Because the rubric will be based on what prompt or and the learning objectives as well, right? Anybody else? Anybody? What do you do when you write a prompt or instruction? You double check against learning outcomes. Also get right. Also get that is a perfect example right there, Rosanna. You want to get feedback from others. You might share it with some others or with other colleagues. You might if you came up with it one night, you might take a break and then come back the next night or 2 nights after and read it, and you might realize it's a little muddy or unclear, so you want to revise it, right, or edit it. Yeah. So some of the things that would guide us, according to Suskie, in creating a good prompt is that the assignment, you must have that challenging aspect. This is what makes you always must have something that is I like to call it pleasant difficulty. It's like games. I think I was showing you all games some time ago, and you want to have an aspect where it's challenging but not too challenging. You know what I mean? So you get to stretch the student but not break the student, so to speak. Then you want to consider the purpose. Of course, that's your learning objectives, and it helps if you have an idea of what you want the assignment or the assessment to look like. What do you want student submissions to look like, or is it you want students to be able to create a journal, an online journal or reflective journal on some particular set of issues, right? Do you want them to do it in Blogger, for example, because they could use a lot of colors and express themselves, and they could use images and videos and so on, all in Blogger? Or do you want them to do something that is just a lit review or some sort of summary or an essay? Yeah. So you should have in your mind what in addition to your learning objectives, of course, what would the assignment look like? Sometimes that's what we call a backward design. So you identify what the assignment looks like. So if I want them to create a phone, then I know that's the end of that's the goal of this project, and I need to give instructions towards that, work towards that. All right. And then of course you map out how students complete the assignment. All right. And then how you would grade. And of course that last part refers to the rubric, which we'll get into in just a bit. So I want to give you, I know some of you would have attended the previous workshop on using MyeLearning for alternative assessments. So I invite you now to, I'll give you about 5 minutes. You could use the same prompts that you may have used in that particular workshop, or if you have new prompts or that you might be thinking about, feel free to share it. Now I'm going to put you in groups, and I'll give you about 5 minutes to work on that. Let me just give you this. Let me copy it and paste it in the chat. All right. These are the things you want to consider when creating your assessment. All right. So you'll need to copy it because you might miss it when you go into your groups. Now the groups will be very random. All right. So, but I'll try to go through each group and guide you through. All right. So do we understand, guys? So I'll give you about 5 minutes. Let me give you the instructions of this particular task. Again, you're going to review, think of a prompt that you have or what you want students to do for your final assessment. All right. You're going to write the process, right, in terms of what you think students need to do to accomplish this, to create this project, to complete this project, to complete this assessment, right? Then you're probably going to explain to your colleagues why is it being, why is this being done? What's the purpose? Consider tying it to your learning objectives. All right. Describe what the assignment might look like. For some people, you might want to start with that, what the assignment looks like, and then you change instructions or your prompts to suit. All right. And then you might want to create a rubric, right? Now, I didn't want to go too much into rubrics because I know we did that in the previous workshop, and I could give you the link to look at that recording when after the session. All right. So those are the 4 main things that you're going to look at. You're going to look at what your assignment should look like, why you want the assignment to be, this particular assignment to be done this way, and then why, what instructions you're going to give students to create what you need them to create, and then put forward a particular rubric. Now the rubric is just, now one of the things I want you to do with the rubric, you don't have to spend too much time on the rubric right now. All I want you to identify is a lot of different criteria. Let's say, for example, at least 4 criteria. In other words, what would you be assessing students on? Is it expression, organization of information, evidence, understanding, etc., etc. Right? Any questions on that so far, guys? Make sure you have the question, the chat from this thing, just the 5 questions that would guide you in creating a prompt, and you could paste it in your group chat. All right. All right. So I'm gonna put you in groups now, and I'll give you probably about 10 minutes. So I'll go around into the different groups, and we'll take it from there. Right. All right. All right. So everyone is back in the main room.
Yes.
Okay. Clearly, you're group work with because I had a lot of laughter in some groups, and you know. But I'm glad it was enjoyable for you guys. So let's go with whoever wants to, whichever group wants to go. I'm not going to call names, so you could go ahead and I'll give you just, so each group could probably talk for about a couple seconds, just stating what your prompt is, right? Or you could even start by describing what your assignment would look like, and then going back to what your instructions or prompt would be. All right, linking it to learning objectives, and then what KPIs you might have. All right, who wants to fix? Anybody?
Well, maybe we can talk about ours.
Sure, I was going to call you, and if nobody answered, I was going to call you.
Well, first of all, Teresina is teaching disability studies, and based on that, they do case studies applying knowledge of services and illegal issues and so on, or policy issues. I guess policy associated with inclusion, and what she's suggesting is that the prompt might be that they will give us a set of questions and associated with the case, with the particular case that they're looking at. And the prompt would be that they expect applications of knowledge of the particular services, so on and maybe strategies relating to individuals with disabilities. And they have to apply that and find solutions to problems that that will arise, and also recommendations associated with that long term might be helpful. So basically, that's the general idea that we had.
No problem. By chance, do you have
finished product might look like?
Yeah. You could probably put in the chat what the prompt might look like. And I guess
Christine, you have to do that. You know.
I find Christine quiet now, you know. She was, if you have your back, she said, quiet. All right, this one that we see here, I think is what Randy posted, right? So we'll come back to that in just a bit. Christine, do you have the prompt? Right. Using a human rights approach to analyze a case and to make recommendations. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody feedback? Based on what Harold just explained and what Christine just typed in the chat.
Wait, but is this, Christine, is this your prompt?
Harold, Christine, or anybody in the group?
No, that's not ours. What's showing up on there is not ours. That's somebody else, some other people.
I think he was referring to what Christine just posted in the chat.
Okay.
So let me read it for everyone. Christine said, using a human rights approach, analyze a case study, and make recommendations. I don't know if it was recommendations for something, but
right.
So yes, so your feedback on it?
Well, I think it would need a lot more detail to make sense, because as you say, recommendations on what, and it will have to be clear what the case is as well.
Right. Exactly. And then the parameters, how long will students have to submit it? How long, what are the things they're looking for? The KPIs, even the criteria. All right. So keep that in mind, guys. Let's move very quickly for the sake of time. Randy, you want to take over one time?
Right. I don't know if you guys can see the document that I uploaded. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we were asking students to develop a crime plan for the country, which is based on the ideas of primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. We've in the question as well said that they should delimit the scope, in that they should select an area for intervention which is sufficiently, I guess, constrained so that they could focus the question properly. So the question itself is written as number 1. So that's our prompt.
Very good.
And while it isn't there in the marking scheme, we actually have the word.
I love you, but I'm a meeting. Oh God.
Mute your mics, guys. Mute your mics. Go ahead, Randy.
Right. So there were 2 objectives tied to that. One was a knowledge level objective, which is just a conceptual understanding of a core concept in criminology, which is primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention, which is based on a very classic reading in criminology, which would have been covered in a particular course. But the other one is applying the concepts to the development of solutions. So that's a bit of a higher order objective. So we tied this essay into 2. Well, it's a project actually into 2 objectives.
Nice.
And for the third part, I think the third question asked about the structure of the, I can't remember what the third question was, but we based on the, anyway, yeah, the third one, the structure of it, maximum 4,000 words, and it's a project, and at least the following headings or equivalent: introduction, all right, what the concepts are, the area of intervention that's being selected, then the core of it, which really is the crime plan, and then a conclusion. And the marks allocated to each section are listed below.
So they know how much to invest in each section, basically.
Right. And well, 5 is the marking scheme that wouldn't be given to the students, but it sets out what is expected in each of the sections. So how the project unfolds and what we're looking for.
Nice. This is a very good example, guys. It's very detailed, right? But notice how it makes it easy for even for him to create his rubric. Yeah. So for example, we see number 4 where he says primary 10% for primary, secondary. Sorry, 10% for the introduction, 20% for the next section, 10% and so on and so on. Right. So that already gives you an idea. Sorry, Prof is saying, why not give rubrics to students? No, you can't give rubrics. You should give your rubric to your students. All right. This lets the student know what exactly you're looking for. Right. So keep that in mind. I don't know. Well, it's a traditional approach. Let me say it like that, to keep the rubric a mystery from the students. But that does more of a disservice because now the student has to guess what you're looking for, right? So make sure you communicate your rubric to the student and the student knows exactly what you're looking for, how much to invest in each section because it might have more weighting. So for example, the student knows by just this here, by just identifying the KPIs or the criteria, that the crime plan is really the crux of this particular essay, right? As opposed to spending a lot of time and effort in primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention, right? You ever notice that when you grade an assignment, the student thinks that he or she did, put so much effort into it, and they almost brought to tears because they didn't get the mark that they thought they deserved.
Right.
But then when then you pull up the rubric and you realize, you show them that okay, you really put effort into primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention, but which you did good, but most of the points really should have been, would be allocated to the crime plan, which is where you didn't do too well. So it lets the student know exactly what to include or how much to invest in each section, and to work smartly, as opposed to shooting in the dark, trying to figure out, well, oh God, so might like this. I hear him say this in class, and that. No, it's not a guessing game. You want to make sure the student knows exactly what to do, and it levels the playing field too, right? So each student, it gives them the best chance of performing to their best ability, right? To succeed, which is what you want. You're not trying to outsmart the student to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like this. This is an exemplary prompt. Notice how detailed it is. I think the only thing you'd probably need to include is probably the length of time that they have to complete it or to submit it, and that's it. Anybody else has anything to say on it? All right. So we could go to the next. Yes, Rosanna. So Rosanna said quite good. Was this just prepared? Yes, I just read in the chats. Professor Chedi, you have anything to say about the rubrics in terms of your question? Why not give rubrics to students?
I strongly feel it should be given to students. Again, for all what you've said here, it should not be a mystery, and it would help students to structure their responses, but also it would help us in terms of marking the papers that would be returned to us. So it works out quite well for both students as well as also lecturers.
Very good. I like that point, and I thought of that when Randy was speaking, but it really slipped my mind that it makes it easier for you to mark because you know exactly what this, it's easier for you to find what you're looking for in the student's essay, right? As opposed to searching and the student is going on and you're looking for what, because it's a mystery to him, right? And then it's a mystery for you to find what you're looking for. So, right? So yeah. All right, good job, guys. Next group. Yes, they did on the time given. They didn't stick at all, boy. Next group. Find it quiet.
Zafran, I had something from my group.
Sure.
But it's not as detailed as this, but I will need to put it up.
All right, so let me just make you the presenter. All right, so you could go ahead and put it up now. I'll just bring down this other Randy.
No.
All right, you getting it?
Yeah. Yeah, I getting it, but somebody else could have gone in the meanwhile.
Oh, okay. Any other group? Go ahead.
All right, so let me
Well, I
see.
could go. Oh, is Belinda
go
going?
ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
That's fine. My only challenge is that I can no longer see the chat. I'm not exactly sure why. So I can't remember everything that we have in it. Any Rachel, you probably have it.
Right. If any of your group members could type or include it in the chat, we could look at it while you talk it through.
Yeah, it's already typed in the chat, but unfortunately, I'm not able to see it. Like every time I drop out, I'm not seeing the chat again.
All right. I'm not. Maybe what you could do. I'm not seeing anybody who placed it in the chat yet. I guess they should copy and paste it in a bit. I don't know if you wanna. Well, you could talk about what the assignment looks like based on what and then from there what
Okay.
we. Yeah.
Okay,
And in
so
the
I'll do
meantime,
that really quickly.
Okay,
Yeah.
just put it.
So the instructions to students would be to, let's say, review a video. And the video captures a real life case of somebody in difficult circumstances. So they have to review the video. That's one for their first instruction. Second is to identify what are the key points or the areas of important pieces of information from the case, and then to use some theoretical framework, whether it's multidimensional social work or the ecological framework, to analyze the case, to determine why these aspects are important, and then to prioritize what the issues for social work assessment and concern might be.
Right.
So that a case study of that kind would, of course, test knowledge. So the first aspect of the rubric would be knowledge.
Right.
The second, so knowledge of the theory, knowledge of critical issues in social work situations. So the second would be comprehension, so their ability to understand, to demonstrate an understanding of the material presented in the of the theory as it relates to. The third would be application of the theory to a real life practice situation.
Nice.
And the fourth would be around like organization of thought and logic, and their ability to think independently.
Right. Okay. Good.
So that the hope is that the assignment, the assessment, in their assignment, they would demonstrate these aspects.
Okay. Right. So I think Rachel was just putting the instructions to view the video, and I guess she'll continue as we go on. So good. Any feedback, guys? Good. So the first thing is to review the video, highlight the important details in the case presented, or summarize, in other words, right? And Rachel is typing, she'll continue in a bit. But it's on what, right, Maria is asking about grading. I think Maria, she was saying that she had a couple KPIs that would guide her in grading the students' work. So, for example, she mentioned, I think, application of knowledge to a real life application of knowledge, something to that effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So the grading would be, there would be, the emphasis would be on knowledge and comprehension and the application, of course, and then like logical thinking and organization of thought, that sort of thing.
I like that. I like that. And of course, you might want to ensure that your prompt includes any other specifics. For example, let's see, Rachel is still typing good. You want to include in your prompt the format, the duration or the size or the length of the assignment, different aspects, right? Because you don't want students to say to come with, let's say, MLA or cargo style formatting, and then you realize, you can't grade them or penalize them for that because they didn't emphasize it as anything in your instructions or your prompt, right? So good. So right. So KPI, yes. She's saying knowledge, comprehension. Good. Good. Very good. Nice. And I think the rest is coming in a bit. So looking good. Looking good. All right. Any feedback? Any other feedback on that, guys? Right. Critical thinking. And of course, you would know where you want to put the weighting of each criterion, right? Good. All right, Belinda. I know Felicia placed one earlier, and Belinda has hers up and ready to go. So either one, whoever wants to go first, go right ahead.
All right, so I'll discuss ours while Belinda organizing. Right. So in terms of
you go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. So we looked at our assignments, a research critique paper. So just reading what I have there. The purpose of the assignment is to enable you to apply concepts learned in the class to the evaluation of psychological research that has yet to be published. It's a critique of an unpublished paper, which could be accessed, the full length of the paper could be accessed on MyeLearning. So to complete the critique, read the full-length APA-style manuscript that is available on MyeLearning, then write a 3-page single-space critique of the unpublished manuscript. The critique must involve concepts covered in class, including but not limited to critiquing the design of the study, validity, reliability, etc. What I didn't include here that we did discuss was the time frame for submission. So students will have 1 week to submit, and we was very specific in terms of identifying from what date to what date, and also a closing off time. We also kind of talk about the category in terms of the rubric. We could rate from excellent to poor, or to assigned particular percentage to each component of the critique.
Right. I'm just putting, if I could put the thing for you, but it's not working. All right. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
I tried, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It's too long. All right. Go ahead.
Yes, and I think that was it. The only thing we discussed was now this finishing discussing was the rubric and how to approach it. And we addressed the same thing about giving students the rubric so they have an idea of what is expected. That would also help in terms of marking. Okay, good. What I like, I don't know if you guys saw it, it's Felicia placed it in the chat earlier. I'll just place it again here. You see. All right. So it's a research paper, and you could take a couple seconds and read it and give any feedback. What are some of the things that stood out to you?
The purpose stood out to me.
The purpose. Very good. Very good. So it gives us to it states the relevance or the purpose of this assignment. Some students might be, oh God, why another one? Why am I doing this? Why, but it's clearly linking, it's clearly stated as well. So very good. Anybody else? Christine, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's clear that she has written a 3-page single-space critique.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. So if the student actually has an idea as in what exactly they have to do, what is required, because you don't want students writing 4 pages or 5 pages, whereas maybe it's just 3 pages is required. Yeah, 3 pages are required.
Yeah. And you notice, as Prof said earlier, I hope you're making the linkages between, you know, the clarity in your prompt and how the implications of that for when you are marking and when you have to go through the student's essay or assignment. You know what I mean? It makes it easier for you to find certain things and grade accordingly. So it makes for a more efficient process. I said, I see Keisha and Maria said it's very specific. Nice step-by-step instructions, and that's good. You always want to make your prompt like a step-by-step set of instructions, like how to make a cake, right? You kind of list a process, so to speak. And the expectations are comprehensive. Very good. Nice. Okay, good. Belinda, your turn.
Yes, thank you. And I must apologize. I have my grandson, so
Oh, that's all right.
I have my grandson. Okay, so I'm in the same group as Felicia, and we looked at this one too. Is one that I am proposing. Well, actually, I put in the, oh boy, I thought this was the one that I had put in. Yes, I put in the objective so that the group could see the link, right? And so the objectives, oh Lord, just now, let me just make this a little bigger. The objectives is to understand the stages of group development and explain the significant purpose in the group processes and functioning, and to develop the ability to reflect on feelings within the context of one personal and professional role in groups and groups processes. Now, this is a part of an assignment when I submitted because it's 2575. And so this will be part of the 75.
Right.
So the problem is you are required to write a reflective essay about your experiences on all aspects of the group project processes. This should include, but is not limited to, your feelings, values. So I have some of the things that I am looking for. So you have to put in the type of group and its purpose, a synopsis of the group activities, your thoughts, feelings, and reactions. And this is the reflective part. To the group, the members, the activities. How did you deal with these thoughts and feelings? Reflection on what interested and excited you, those kinds of a thing.
Right.
And the guideline is your paper should be approximately 2,000 words long. I had 5 pages, but I put in the words instead. 1.5 spacing. Pay attention to grammar, spelling, and quality of writing, as this Chicago manual must be used in the document.
Nice.
And I have something of a reflective journal rubric here, which talks about the affective, the knowledge, different types of communication. The analysis is broken down, so you know that you have to see how the group change your outlook.
Very good. Very detailed.
Understand the challenges that you face. And this one, well, is the reflection demonstrate the ability of the student to question their own bias, stereotypes, preconcept. So basically, that's the rubric.
Nice. Very good. Any feedback, guys? Any feedback on what Belinda presented here?
I'm not gonna some feedback.
I would say, Belinda, just while the others are preparing, I don't know the objectives that you stated earlier. I don't know about the course objectives, but you want to be careful with words like understand, right?
Oh no, I put that in so that you will get a sense of why I'm doing the reflective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait, did all of this just now?
No, I had this written already. So when you talk about the objectives, you see, I had one objectives, yes.
Yeah.
I just slipped that in, but these were written already.
Okay,
right?
nice.
So,
Anybody
yeah.
else? Any comments? Any other comments, guys? I guess you nailed it, Belinda. I think it's
I
fairly
hope
good. It's very detailed.
well,
It's yes, Maria saying it's very detailed. It's very, you map out exactly what you want and what you're looking for. And I think I like that. Felicia said the same thing, right?
yeah. Well, we discussed it in the chat. So,
Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I like the rubric as well. So good. Lots of resources in the class. Yes. So guys, I hope you're learning from each other, and you could borrow certain ideas or to improve what you do as well, as part of it, a community of learners. Maybe we could take probably just one more group at least before we move on. Who wants to go next? Anybody? Okay, Lisa, take it away.
Okay. Well, for us, apologies, we don't have it like in fancy presentation. I just have it written down here.
All right.
So what we did in response to the first question, we decided that we are going to develop an assessment plan and intervention for a client that has some various issues. Now, this would be presented in a case study that would be given to the students and them as well. So what we would like for the students to do is for them to develop, for the students to be, sorry, so the objective, sorry, sorry, I just have everything a bit scribbled. Yes,
Hi, I can
Dr.
jump
Huggins,
in
you can help me
if
out
it's
here?
finished.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is for a postgraduate course, Advanced Social Work Interventions. And what we did was part of the learning objectives is to do is to learn how to create assessments and identify appropriate interventions for clients.
Right.
So the learning assessment is do you know how to create an assessment, treatment plan, and identify a good assessment intervention for clients. So we broke it down as far as our KPIs or our assessment was what is the presenting problem, identifying the presenting problems as far as priority is concerned, and in order of priorities, identify them, and that's like equal to 20 points. If we're looking at the rubric as well as KPIs. And the second one is as far as identify 5 components of assessment. So I want them to be able to identify it, and tell me what they are. What are the assessment components? First of all, what are they in the case, and then and provide an example of it. So that's about 20 points as well. And then the third piece is identify an appropriate intervention, and explain to us why you chose the intervention you chose, and that's 20 points as well.
Very good.
So we did it, that's how we broke it down. And then each of these assignments is broken down into 300 minimum 500 words per question.
Right. Good, good, good. I like that. I like the fact that you mapped out you kind of integrated the KPIs and the weighting of it, and the instructions. They all kind of married together. Very good. Any comments on that, guys? How much time will you give students to submit to prepare this assignment?
I gave them a good 5 days because it's a complicated case.
Okay, good. And then I'm not sure if I got how long or the extent of the assignment. Is it a couple pages or a couple limited words?
It's 300 to 500, 300 words minimum, 500 words maximum per question.
Okay. Oh, good, 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 good. Yes, I agree, Rosanna. Well thought of. I like that. Yeah, definitely. Right. you see how these alternative assignments could be very, you know, I don't say simple, but it's within your nature. You know, it's not it's within the learning curve, so to speak, and it's just a little adjustment to let's say what would be a normal final exam. You know, anybody wants to go? Any other group wants to go? If not, I could continue with the next phase. Let me just minimize that a bit. All right, so let's go on, and then we could always share. Now the thing is, if it is you eventually finish your prompt and everything, you are free to send it to me for any sort of review and feedback. I think that might be useful to you, and I'll be happy to help you with that. All right. Yeah. So, and it doesn't take much to just review and make sure that, you know, it's clear. Because I'm pretty sure if I could understand it, the students should be able to understand it. All right. Right. Good. So now that we worked on the prompt, no problem at all, Maria. The next part is the process. Now, the process is something that we covered already to an extent in the previous MyeLearning workshop. So I wouldn't gloss over everything, but I'll just you know, emphasize certain things here. So the process is really the method, or how will, so now that you have the what in terms of what will students do, now it's really how will they do it, right? And in this vein, we also want to consider the platform in particular, like what technology platforms you might want, you envision them using. So for example, well, we know for some of those who might be using essays, it might be Microsoft Word and MyeLearning. For others who might have journals, it might be Microsoft Word and MyeLearning, or it might be a blog. So for example, Belinda's assessment could very well be done in Blogger. Yeah. Where and a blog is almost like an online reflective journal, so to speak. But of course, you could put your images, you could put your videos, whether they are original or created by someone else. You could put, you know, it's a lot more. It's a lot more customizable. So the persons who are like in social work and so on, you might like that. I use it for different courses as well, because students they find it's more fun to do reflective journals using that platform. So if you want to get an idea on how to do it, feel free to send me a message and I could kind of explain. So you have this, you have different platforms in MyeLearning that would allow for the submission of asynchronous alternative assessments, whether it's through Turnitin, whether it's through the regular MyeLearning assignment, or even in some cases through the discussion tool. So for example, if it's something for peer feedback, you might want to use the discussion tool. If not, based on the prompts that we just covered, you may not necessarily need a discussion tool, I'm just saying, right? So later on, just in a couple of minutes, we're going to look specifically at the Turnitin and the MyeLearning assessments. The both types of assessments cover the same thing, but they measure different, they have different features or limitations. So before we get into that, we have some different tools that you might want to consider. So for example, I mentioned Blogger for Belinda's thing. It's something that you could consider. If it's an online asynchronous presentation, they could use Screencast-O-Matic or Loom. That's another one. Sorry, excuse. If it's something that you want to see, it's a collaborative project. I think somebody mentioned a group project earlier. No? If it's a group project, then obviously Google Docs and even Google Sites, or like I said, blogs could work as well. All right. And I know this particular slide we did in the previous workshop. You created your instructions or your prompts, then you have the students complete and submit their work. All right, whether it's in MyeLearning, well, it has. Let me just say this off the top. So all the assessments, as you know, have to be submitted in MyeLearning, right? Usually it's through the MyeLearning assignment activity or through Turnitin. Now, the thing with Turnitin, well, I'll get to that in just a bit. Before let me not jump ahead. You want to make sure that you have alignment with the prompts, the technology tool, and the assessment. The prompt, the assessment, and the learning outcome, right? You don't want that, for example, the objective is identify directions to get to the airport, and you're telling me the ICT is, and the assessment instruction or prompt would be to create a roadmap using, some GIS platform to get to Gasparilla, right? You understand what I'm just saying? So I'm saying Gasparilla because, anyway, that's a side note. So, but yes, you want alignment amongst the different components of your assessment. All right. So they must all, you see, like how you mentioned, when you mentioned your KPIs and your assignment instruction and your objectives, you had alignment there. So one more thing to add to that alignment is the ICTs, right? And I'm going to put you in groups just for like a couple minutes. But so you have a lot of what we discussed already. So you have, I'm assuming, your topic or your unit, whatever that might be. You have your instructions where necessary, preferably a step-by-step kind of thing. If you don't have it in a step-by-step format, for now you could just put in the description, all right, the learning objectives, and then the technology tool that you're going to be using, all right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, even more interesting, I should say, because you have the technologies to be used, and then you also have to identify on the second page how you're going to use it. In other words, okay, so you're going to use, let's say MyeLearning is a tool that you're going to be using, obviously. How will this tool be used? Whether it's for peer assessment, is it for submitting the essays, that kind of thing. If it's Turnitin, is it for plagiarism detection? Well, that's what plagiarism is. That's what Turnitin is used for. And then to the resources, right? Who are the persons you might need? You're always going to need support personnel, whether it is the technicians in your department. No problem at all, no problem. We understand. There's a recording, so we'll also make it available to you. All right. So yeah, so you have you want to identify the human resources, the technology resources, obviously internet, a technician, and that kind of thing, and any other notes you might have related to your assignment, to your assessment. So what I'm gonna do is just put you in your groups, and it doesn't have to be long, just for about 5 minutes. You're probably gonna be in different groups because Blackboard will randomize your groups again. But if you end up feel free to share that assignment with your group members, and no problem. And yeah, so what I want you to, let me just place the instructions back on the screen. Right. So is everyone seeing that? So like I said, this particular document would help answer these two questions. Right? Remember those questions? Remember we worked on some questions. We listed some questions at the top of this session. So we're almost done, and this will help navigate through or help you to get to think about these things. So you'll have less anomalies in your session. All right. So I'm gonna put you in your groups again. Let me put it in the chat. So you make sure and copy the instructions. All right, it's there in the chat. I think yes. So copy what I just typed in the chat. All right, and I'm gonna put you back into your groups. And any questions so far on what is required or what you need to do? So we mapped out the prompts, we mapped out the KPIs, we mapped out what the objectives will be. So you have that. That should be easy for you to just copy and paste or whatnot in the form. And then you're going to now focus more so on the technology and how you're going to use this technology. In some cases, we all know we have to, one of the basic platforms we have to use is, we all have to use MyeLearning, right? But in addition, so you put in MyeLearning there. But in some cases, you might need an additional technology platform, right? Whether it's Blogger, whether it's Google Docs, whether it's, you know, whatever the case might be. Even Microsoft Word, right? But you need to put that in that form, because the good thing about teaching is that, you know, you be so prepared that, you know, there's a saying that surprises or the unexpected happens to the unprepared. So you want to make sure you think of everything in this time, so that you don't get thrown off by any sort of anomalies. All right, I'm gonna put you in groups, probably the same groups as before. If it's different, you just share accordingly. And I'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. And by 10 past, we should be back in the session, back in the main room. All right. So we could probably do a couple of the groups. Who wants to go first? Okay, Lisa, go ahead. Randy selected you.
That's not fair though.
I was gonna suggest you too, Lisa, but I didn't want to, you know. Then I saw Randy, so I said, okay.
Wow. Thanks, guys. All right. So I'm hope. Okay, dude. All right. Let's see.
Don't worry,
All
don't
right.
worry, we got you.
All right. So for the Tech 2 plan, what we basically continued with what it is that we were presenting in the first session. So we had initially under the lesson topic or the unit was for the students basically to develop an assessment plan and intervention, which we were discussing from before. Right. Under assessment description, instructions, and prompt, we have under description for students to be competent in developing an assessment plan as well as in the intervention strategies for clients that present various issues. And this would be indicated in the case study that would be provided with the assignment. The steps or instructions would be for the students to write an essay between 300 to 500 words to develop this assessment plan with the intervention strategy, and for them to submit within a 2 to 3 day period. We would like for them to first of all identify what is the problem. Also prioritize which one of the intervention strategies they would rank as first, second, third, and also for them to provide examples for each of the intervention strategy that they have chosen. Right. Okay, then we
looking good.
Okay, going good. Then we have under relevant learning objectives, we just refer back again to the description, which was basically for the students and them to be competent in developing the assessment plan. We were to come back to that, but then we came back into the main room. Right. And then under technology tools, we have 3, which is the MyeLearning. We have Microsoft Word, which will be used for them to type their essay, as well as the Turnitin tool. Yes.
Good. So let me ask this. Is it a group? I didn't know if I got this before. Is it a group assignment or individual assignment?
Individual. It would be an individual assignment.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. Right. So under how will the tools be used? So we have under MyeLearning, which would be with the Blackboard collaborators, where the assignment will be posted for the students to retrieve and download the assignment. Microsoft Word would be for them to basically type up their assignment, which would be between 300 to 500 words. And Turnitin, this would be used to ensure that no plagiarism was detected, as well as to give the lecturers an indicator of the similarity index if it was within the required amount.
Right. Well, the thing is, I'm glad you're identifying it, right? So the thing is, you may not even need both MyeLearning and science, and you could use either or, right? Yeah, you could use either or. So I think you raise a very good point there. And we're going to look at Turnitin and MyeLearning in just a couple minutes. But the thing with MyeLearning is that if it is like it's a video assignment or something that requires images and different types of media, then my learning assignment is the way to go. If it's something that is text based, then Turnitin is the way to go, because Turnitin will only detect, will only pick up on text, not on images, not on videos, not on other kinds of content or media, right? So for the essays that some of you mentioned, you have essays and different things like that, then definitely Turnitin is the route to go, right? But if it's something more, yeah, then no. The thing is that the mandate also states that, they strongly recommend Turnitin unless the assignment is something that is more graphical or that kind of thing. So which works very much within the parameters of the technology itself. All right. So yeah. So go ahead, Lisa. Just thought I should make that point. Go ahead.
All right. I didn't know that before at all.
No problem. That's what we're here for.
So subsidiary items. Right. So subsidiary items personal required. We have internet on laptops, and we have this as well as email on both the students as well as the lecturer side. And then we have technician basically on the academic side. In terms, but both academic and student side, because in the event, because we know many times, sometimes the internet may drop or whatnot, and this can happen for both staff as well as for students, that they may get problems in either one, uploading the assignment, or two, in retrieving the assignment. And in the terms of the academics, if they have their rubrics and they are marking it on MyeLearning as well, they may also need the technician as well if they're getting problems in marking or for the rubric to show or stuff like that. So that's what we have there. Or in terms of the URL, we need it available for both staff and students.
Very good. Very good. I think let me just say as well that, let's say in the event that students get trouble with their internet or whatever the case might be, you could refer them to DSSD, right? They provide some support with that. I'm just saying that for everybody. In terms of the personnel that you might also want to consider in addition to your technicians and so on. Of course, CETL, they do more student support as well. When it comes to faculty support, however, well, that's where I guess CETL and I come in, right? So so keep that in mind. And by the end of this, in the next couple of minutes, I'll just show you where you can go to get support. If it's either you could email me directly, or there's another email you could use, or even the MyeLearning team at CITS. All right. So yeah, sorry, Lisa, for interrupting again. I'll be quiet now.
No, I'm finished. I'm finished, and I'm just making my notes here as well. Yes.
Oh, all right, great.
Yes. Yes, because the other notes we didn't put anything.
That's no problem. You don't have to have other notes. So right, who's next, guys?
I think was Steve, wasn't it?
Good night, everyone. I am presenting for Dr. Yearwood. So Dr. Yearwood indicated that in a previous group, she used a case study for students. So we just continued from where she had indicated previously. We focused on the technology tools and how to use the tools as well as the subsidiary. So we require all assignments to be done in Microsoft Word as per the specifications and the instructions which were previously given. That would include the length of the paper, etc., the amount of words, style, EPA style, whatever it is previously indicated. Somebody might get, okay, as well as she would require all papers to be submitted via Turnitin. She submitted online through MyeLearning. She would also want students to use laptop and desktop computers only.
Okay, good.
As for how the tools will be used, the reason for Turnitin is obviously plagiarism. MyeLearning, is the actual submission for the university submission portal for assignments. Laptop and desktop, because she thinks that cell phones and iPad may not be suitable for reasons such as connectivity and other stuff like that.
Right. Just back
Alternatively,
up on what you were saying. Just one more thing. I think you were saying that you were saying MyeLearning and Turnitin.
yes.
Right. So I was just telling Lisa that Turnitin and MyeLearning are two they're one and the same. So you may not have to put MyeLearning and Turnitin. You could just say Turnitin because
Oh,
if it's a Turnitin assignment, then the student wouldn't have to submit as a MyeLearning assignment. It's in MyeLearning, right? But there's a MyeLearning assignment in Turnitin. Sorry, there's a Turnitin assignment in MyeLearning, and there's just a regular MyeLearning assignment. All right, and the Turnitin assignment, of course, picks up on potential plagiarism, and the MyeLearning assignment is compatible with different types of media. So if Dr. Yearwood had videos, it was asking students to create videos for the assessments, then she would probably use the normal MyeLearning assignment. If it's for essays, which is what I think is saying, then definitely Turnitin. Right?
okay, thank you very much. Alternatively, she indicated because of the class size, she may consider having a Dropbox where students can submit their papers because it may clog up our inbox, and for different reasons as well, students may not be able to submit it directly to her.
Right. Right.
So,
And let me just
sorry.
make a point there, right? I like this contingency plan. When I went into this group, we were talking about it. I like the fact that you have a contingency plan. I think it's a good thing to keep in mind, guys, in terms of because you never know how technology might react, right, or behave at a particular time. You have that little 1% of unpredictable nature of technology. So you want to make sure you have a contingency plan. So I totally understand where Dr. Yearwood is coming from. I think that is a valid contingency plan, but you need to think, how will this be? How are you going to account for this and to bus? You know what I mean? Or the head of your department, right? Or your dean or whoever that might be. So you want to make sure that you could account for it. Let's say if you have this Dropbox, let's say you need to make it clear that it's only in the state of an anomaly, right? That you're going to use this external Dropbox. So keep that in mind, that you would need to justify it or explain it if the question arises. So that's just a point to note. I don't know if Professor Chady has anything to say about that.
No, Justin. Fully support what is being said. Yeah.
All right, no problem. All right, yes, go ahead, Steve.
Yes, thanks. I think one of the reasons why for the Dropbox is to ease students' anxiety. Because sometimes you submit an assignment, you want to know if it has reached the lecturer has gotten it back. Sometimes the lecturer may not reply until after a little while. So the Dropbox will help to ease the anxiety as well, to know that they can submit either directly to the lecturer or a Dropbox. So at least one of the two options, the assignment would have been submitted.
Very good.
And our subsidiary items will be, I guess, the laptops, desktops, internet, etc. So that's it for us. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Perhaps you could take maybe one more just for the sake of time. After this, we more or less could be about to wrap up. I just want to show you the MyeLearning assignment and or the Turnitin assignment in MyeLearning. I'm not sure how many might be familiar more so with the Turnitin assignment. So are you guys familiar with the Turnitin assignment?
I think so. I'm not too sure, but I think so.
It would be nice of you to show us, Justin.
Yes,
All
please.
right, no problem. All right. So let me just go. Just watching time. Let me just go straight to straight to that. Or does any other group want to present before we go to that? If one group wants to present, that's okay. We could take one more group and then go straight into Turnitin.
Probably just go straight to it, Justin.
Okay, no problem. What I want you to do is, now everyone has a course in MyeLearning here, right? So what I need you to do is go to MyeLearning, and you're gonna, because I want you to be able to create it with me, and you could hide it from students, that's okay. But I want you to leave here, now that you have your prompt, you map out how your technology is gonna be used. I want you now to have at least a Turnitin assignment, which you could always go back and edit, all right? But I think it's important for me to share it with you, sorry, to walk you through the process. And I will share my screen here as well, all right? Is that okay? So you could just let me know if you're seeing my screen. Great. So the first thing you need to do is turn editing on. Let me give you some time to access your course. So right, so you're seeing the screen. And if you want to go ahead and access your MyeLearning course, any particular course that you might be, preferably a course that you think you're going to create this Turnitin assignment in. So at least you wouldn't have to start from scratch again. That's the whole idea behind this, that you would have something that you could just edit, as opposed, you just edit the instructions, as opposed to starting from scratch. Yeah? So is everyone in the MyeLearning course?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So the first thing you need to do, and I think this is a good recap for Christine and Harold and some of the others from the previous workshop, the first thing you need to do is turn editing on, right? And you know that is right up there, the cog thing. The turn editing on button is right up here. For me, it's just turn editing off, but you're looking for the turn editing on button, right? So you turn editing on. And once you do that, you're going to see editing icons and the page change up just a little bit. All right. Now, you want to add an activity. Turnitin is also is an activity. MyeLearning assignment is also an activity. So you scroll to the block where you want to add this Turnitin assignment, and you're going to click Add an activity or resource. Add an activity or resource. Now, you're going to see this page up here. It's a Add an activity or resource page. And let me just highlight for you. You're going to see Turnitin up here. Sorry, not Turnitin. Normal MyeLearning assignments up here. It's an alphabetical order. So assignments, normal MyeLearning assignments, will be at the top of the list. So if it is that you have your assessment, your alternative assessment is a video presentation, or students have to submit just a URL or a video or an audio file, or some sort of thing that a screencast even, then or a URL to a blog that they created, then maybe the assignment tool would be the way to go. They look almost the same, so it wouldn't make much of a difference. The Turnitin, if it's something that it's an essay of some sort, and you want to make sure plagiarism is potential plagiarism is detected, then you scroll a little way down to Turnitin, and you double click on Turnitin assignment. So double click on Turnitin assignment. All right, and it's going to take you to a page like this. Right, you're going to see Turnitin assignment name, summary, and so on. So while you get to that, is everybody on a page like that? Let me just, okay, great. So I'm just going to pull up one I did from before, so you see what the settings would look like. All right. It's just loading here. So So you want to give your assignment a name, turn it in assignments, just like, you know, what we did in the previous workshop with MyeLearning assignment. So you give it a name. In this case, it could be the final assignment or the name of the, it could be a specific name, or you could just call it final assessment. Right? In the summary field, here's where you could, in some cases, since we worked on the prompts already, it's very easy for you. You just copy and paste whatever prompt you typed from before, and you could paste it inside here. Right? So after you give an assignment name, you go here now and you could paste a prompt you create or instructions you created from before. If you didn't type up your prompt entirely, just type what you have thus far. I know we all have a prompt, even if it's in rough form, you're pasting it inside here, or you're typing it inside here, right? So far, so good. Let me know when you get your summary, your instructions, or your prompt. Or remember, your summary, in this summary field is where you're going to put what we call your prompt or your instructions, or your description. You could put that all in there. So let me know when you get that part done. Okay, great. Christine is done. What? Christine person ask you? Person test. Anybody else? If you have it even in the tech tool plan, you could just copy and paste the first part from the tech tool plan in there, or even in the chat. Some of it should be in the chat as well. Right, Felicia is done. Belinda, Rosanna. Right, Prof, you're done. Keisha, Rachel.
I'm done.
Okay, great. All right, good. Nice. So, good. So most persons are done. Good. So as we do that, now in some cases, I know in some cases we have where you would provide the student with case studies or supporting documents, correct? In a case like that, let's say, even if it's a rubric, let's say you want to show them what the rubric looks like, right? You can easily do that. In a case, let's say like what Belinda or Andy has, they already have their things typed up in a Word document. So you could easily just upload that and say, please click here for further information regarding the assignment, right? If it is you want to do it like that, or you could just copy and paste your instructions here. And then if it's a supporting document, let's say a guide on the APA format or something to that effect, or plagiarism policy, you're free to include that here. Now, to do that, let me just show you a nice feature that you might be interested in. You wanna, let's say you wanted to attach a supporting document, a supplementary document to your assignment instructions that students would need. To do that, you click on this first icon. Click on this first icon here in the ribbon, summary ribbon. All right. Once you've done that, I want you to, so you see this first icon, right? It's one of the arrow on it. Click on that and you're gonna see this whole ribbon expand to give you more options. Once you've done that, I want you to highlight a particular word or phrase. So in a case like this, I have click here. Let's say in this instance, I want to use further information, right? Highlight this. Now the way this works is different from, and this is where one of the ways in which it differs from a normal MyeLearning assignment. You wouldn't be able to put an attached, like have an attached document. You'd have to make a hyperlink to that document, right? So let me show you, and you could follow the steps, so we'll all do it together. So you highlight the word that you want to, or phrase that you want to make into a hyperlink, and you're gonna click on the third row and the third icon. So it's the third icon in the third row, which is the link, right here. The third icon in the third row, and this window is gonna pop up. Is everyone seeing this part? Create link. Once you see that, you click on this tick to open in a new window. So when students click on this hyperlink to a new document or supporting document, it will take them to a new window and they wouldn't lose the submission window. All right? Now in my case, I want to use a document that I'm now going to put this document in. So I'm going to click Browse Repositories. Browse Repositories. Now, in some cases, you may have uploaded stuff in your MyeLearning account, in which case it might be in your recent files, right? In this case, I want to do it from scratch. So let's say it's a new document. So I click Choose File under the Upload File menu, right? The upload file is on the left, and then you're going to click Choose File. And just like a normal document, a normal email or something, you just find the document that you want to upload, right? So let's say I want to use this, for example, right? Or I don't know what COVID-19 report is about, but let's try this one. I click Open, and so we see the document there, right? So far, so good? Right, good. And then, so once you do that, you click Upload this file. Upload this file. And look, it's hyperlinked. Remember, this was black just now. Look, it's hyperlinked. So what I try to do, because Turnitin doesn't highlight, you wouldn't know, the student wouldn't know it's a hyperlink unless you hover over the word. So what I try to do is highlight, make it a highlight from afar, an artificial highlight. And I do this, highlight the word, and then change the font color, let's say to blue, and underline. So it looks more like a hyperlink. So the student knows from afar, with all the black text in the thing, you know, you see that this is a hyperlink. All right. If you want to change the color, that's okay as well. You could go ahead and do that. Right. So that's just something you should know, because if you make it a hyperlink, it doesn't always show up unless you hover over it. So right. So once you've done that, you scroll down now. Make sure this is not ticked. Display description on course page. No, don't do that, because it's going to clutter your course homepage. Under submission type, make sure it's a file upload, right? File upload. After that, number of parts, I would recommend leaving it to 1. Even if you have multiple parts, I would recommend that you, like how we mentioned earlier, that some students have some prompts require students to answer different sub-questions. I think, Prof, you had a prompt similar to that. In a case like that, I would recommend that you ask the students to answer all the questions and put it in one document. Yeah? So let's say you have part A, B, C, D, E. Part A, B, C, D, E could be segmented, but still in one document, almost like a thesis, right? So that's for number of parts. In maximum file size, well, that stays as is, right? It's the limit, site limit. This allows submission of any file type, yes. Display originality report to students, yes. Right? And the reason, anybody could tell me why you want the students to see the originality report? Now, the originality report is really, it shows you the potential plagiarism between the student's document and what else is out there. So, of course, you would need to let the student see the originality report, right? So the student knows in advance, yeah, my project isn't too original and I need to make some adjustments or make the proper referencing, right? According to AP format, of course. Yes, automatically refresh originality scores and grades. So for example, if a student realizes his document is 90% plagiarized, then he would need to go and make some adjustments, whether it's to the document or to the settings of the Synchronous detection platform. And you want to know, he or she would need to know if it's still excessively plagiarized, right? So make sure this part is set to yes, automatically refresh originality scores and grades. Here, at a grade, you could leave this as well. You could set the maximum grade. All right. I'll just tell you, because I like to state the pros and cons. If you go beyond 100, it's not going to accept it. I don't know why, but it doesn't accept, like, let's say 140 or 100 or 200 and that kind of thing. It must be a maximum of 100 or less. So in my case, I put 40. The rest could stay as is, right? Grade category could stay as is. Grade to pass could stay as is. Assignment part 1, that could stay as is. You could leave the title there. Under start date, now this looks similar to the regular MyeLearning assignment, right? You state the start date, whatever that might be. In your case, it might be May something, something, something. So go ahead and set the start date. Now it's the date, the month, the year, and the time. Now the time is a 24-hour clock. So if it's something that is from 12 o'clock 12:01 in the morning, then you're gonna have to start from 0, right? 00. If not, then you adjust accordingly. And the same for the due date. So when is this assignment due? Now remember, you have to leave this, I think as I stated earlier in the presentation, the session today, 2 to 7 days, I believe. So you could figure out if you wanted the full 7 days, if it's just 3 days. I think we had an assignment prompt that stated 3 days, right? So that's your discretion. And the post date, I always recommend that the post date should be the same date as the start date, right? The start date and the post date should be the same, right? So in other words, students will be able to see the assignment and they will be able to submit from the 24th. But the due date, of course, is like after the due date and time, no more. All right. Is that so far so good?
Reverend, could you just repeat that, due date versus post date?
Sure. The due date, the start date, the due date, and the post date. So I was saying that the start date and the post date, I normally recommend them, suggest that they be the same date and time. So the start date and the due date, that ensures that students, one, would be able to see the assignment instructions and so on, and they would also be able to post, to submit, to make submissions between, let's say from the 24th of April to the 1st of May. Yeah. So the post date and the start date, you want to make sure that's the same at least. And then the due date, of course, the due date is the cutoff date that after which students cannot submit. Yeah. To make it easy, I always recommend to put the post date the same as the start date. Right. So after that, go to originality report. And the originality report, again, if you want to allow submissions after due dates, that's up to you, but I generally say no. All right. You want to also generate, you want the platform to generate the report immediately. Sometimes people forget to select this. And so the student doesn't know whether the submission is if it's 100% plagiarized versus 2%, right? Another very, very, very important thing, guys, make sure and click no repository. No repository. Right? And the reason you want to do this is you don't want, when a student tries to make corrections to their assignment and they resubmit, the platform recognizes it as the student plagiarizing himself. Right? Because the previous submission was stored in a repository. So make sure you click no repository, because then if the student makes a resubmission, then it's going to look like 100% plagiarized. Yeah?
Justin, I have a quick question.
Sure, sure.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not familiar with Turnitin on MyeLearning, but I'm more familiar with it when students do their thesis, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if a student does their first submission, right, and then there is plagiarism, and then they want to submit a second one,
Mm-hmm.
they want to fix their whatever similarity that they're seeing.
Right. Yeah.
How I know that on the second go with Turnitin, it sometimes takes a while to generate the similarity index form and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The report itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the same through MyeLearning, or is it an automatic? It automatically generates the report.
Right. It automatically generates the report, and that's like for this one up, report generation speed. So you want it immediately. Okay. So in other words, when the student submits, it might take, depending on how long the assignment is, it might take like a few minutes tops, but at least it wouldn't take like a whole day, like how, the thesis might be.
The other one, it sometimes can take, even if. Now, the other problem we may have, what if a student waits until the last minute to submit? I mean, we may have those problems.
Yes, yes, I like that question. Once in a case like that, the student would need to, well, a couple things. The student could risk just clicking submit without really seeing what the final similarity report looks like. Yeah. And that's a risk that I guess the student have to take. In a case like now, if it's a large assignment, like a thesis, it might take a while. If it's something that is more like a shorter assessment, essay or something, it wouldn't take too long. It should take
long. Okay.
It wouldn't take, like, depending on the student's internet speed, of course, it wouldn't take very long. It'll take like a couple seconds. Let's say, for example, like what I think Rosanna and even Professor Chady had sort of subsidiary questions and short answers, basically. Those documents shouldn't take very long, because I didn't see anybody put like a 5,000 word essay, right?
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So those assessments should be really, should be done within a minute.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Very quickly.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
But good question. Very good question. So these options here, you want to make sure, yes, it's almost yes, right? Yes. So in other words, you're kind of telling the system what to check for. Check against other student papers, so you know if students plagiarize or copied another student's copied from each other. Check against internet sources, whether it's blogs, Wikipedia, for example, you know, all these other things. Check against journals or other publications, right? Research papers and so on that they need to, you know, it's one thing to use them, but you need to cite them. Exclude the bibliography, yes. Exclude the bibliography because you don't want, if I put Zephyrin, Justin 2014 or whatever the case is, then, you know, that comes as if I'm plagiarizing the name of the article. That wouldn't make sense, right? So you want the fact that once it's accounted for in the bibliography, then that wouldn't count as plagiarism. So yes, exclude bibliography. Exclude quoted material. Now, if the student put the praise or whatever in quotation marks and references it, then that is okay, right? Exclude small matches. That's just like if it's jargon, like within the field, let's say it's a particular concept or term that might be frequently used in your field, then yeah, but generally I could exclude those things. Those are like terminologies and that kind of thing. So once you do that, you could click save and return to course. Oh, before you do that, sorry. Before you do that, make sure you hide from students. All right, make sure you hide it from students so your students can see it since you're doing it in a live course. All right. So once you do that, it should take you to, you should see your Turnitin assignment in the course homepage. In my case, I'm seeing it here. It's grayed out because it's hidden from students. All right. So is everyone seeing your Turnitin assignment in your course homepage? Right. So once you see that, you click on it now. I think I forgot to save my hyperlink thing, but hopefully you see the other one. And here we see it, right? Your Turnitin assignment is here. And the hyperlink, the one I just created, I forgot to save. So I just clicked back, but I went back to the course homepage without saving. But here it is, right? What I did previously. Click here. Now, if I click here, it should take me to the whatever document that I have. So like, for example, this one, right? And there you have it. And here's where students will go to submit. Of course, when they go on their thing, they could see they could go ahead and submit. All right. Now, when you go in, you are going to see the student's name, the student submission title, the paper ID, and the paper ID is just a code number that Turnitin would identify that paper, right? When the submission information, the similarity index. The similarity index is normally where it'll let you know the extent to which the paper has potentially plagiarized material. And it's usually color coded. I think like the green is fairly safe and the red is high percentage of plagiarism, like 90 and over, right? And just let me say this as well. The percentage that you accept, of course, that's something that you would have to go through and see for your particular assessment and project and determine what you deem as acceptable and what is not acceptable. Generally, I think it's a 10% limit. I may be wrong, but I think 10 to 15% limit. So, but obviously something like 50% plagiarism and 40% and so on is unacceptable. All right. Now, I don't have any assignments here to grade, all right? But let me see if I could see in the same course if anyone submitted in another Turnitin assignment. I don't think so. But what I do have is a document to guide you in terms of giving feedback on Turnitin, right? No, but I do have a video as well. And you could come, you don't have to look at it now, but it's a video that I think will be useful to you. Let me just get that link. So I'm posting the link here as we wrap up. And you could save it and watch it, you know, whenever you have some time to go back and edit your Turnitin assignment. All right. Any questions on that?
No, none here, Justin.
All right, great. So, and I was just saying, let me just go to the slide just before this. So remember, there's a difference between the MyeLearning assignment and the Turnitin assignment. All right, and based on the prompts you created thus far, I think you probably, generally, everybody might be leaning more towards the Turnitin assignment. All right, keep in mind that the MyeLearning assignment is like PowerPoints, Excel, images, JPEG, MP4, that kind of thing. Turnitin is really for text. All right, and based, like I said earlier, based on the assignments that you might be, that the prompts we saw earlier, I think Turnitin might be the best route for most people. And yeah, and of course, like I said, I just sent you a video that you could look at, and we have some more material that, I don't know if you know about the resource website, no? That will have things on the submission, how to create, how to give, well, to the videos and PDFs, and how to give feedback and so on in a Turnitin assignment. All right, does everyone have access to the resource site?
Do you want to send us the link also, Justin?
Sure, yeah, I was just gonna send it now. Let me just type it in there. One sec. And as we come to a close, put it in the chat. Right. So that URL, once you click on it, you know, you could have that will give you all the information on teaching and learning online during this time. It also has the session recordings that we put up there as well. I want to draw your attention to that last, on the staff tab, there's one totally devoted to assessments. All right. Let me just show you how to get there. So very quickly. So you go to, right, let's say you're here. You go to staff. Of course, if you need any sort of stuff on MyeLearning, Blackboard, and other tips or technologies and so on and that kind of thing, you could go there. The session recordings would be here most of the times, well, all the time during this COVID period.
Included the session recording, Justin?
Yes, yes. Now this session, I'll have to edit it because I had to stop recording when we did the breakout rooms, but I'll put it so I wouldn't have to send you 3 different recordings. It'll be one complete session recording, right? Right, and then what we have here is a tab on alternative assessments, and this is where you're gonna get more details on what we spoke about today, as well as the PDF and videos to help you along the way. How to interpret a Turnitin report. Like I said, it's color coded, so all of that is necessary. How to give feedback. Well, that's the video I just sent to you. And yeah, so let me just stop sharing and go back to any other questions?
I just have one question, Justin.
Sure.
Similar to the regular assignment in Turnitin, when you're grading it, would it go straight to gradebook also?
Yes.
Okay.
You could grade within Turnitin. I think in that same website, it should have the videos there or the PDF there. And we're also working on some more this week.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we're working on some more Turnitin stuff this week. That should be of use to you as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Because Turnitin is always being updated and so on, so you know it kind of keeps us in our P's and Q's. And yeah, so and of course I think I showed you in the MyeLearning, the regular MyeLearning assessment, that you're gonna get the responses, whether it's you could do it in Turnitin too. You could give responses, and then I think more so in the normal MyeLearning assignment, you will be able to get responses from the student. Now in this case, I want to be careful with responses because remember it's functioning as an end of term exam. So you may not want to give as much feedback, detailed feedback and so on, beyond just like what the rubric might say. You know what I mean? So you might want to seek the counsel of the exam section, and I guess Professor Chidi might be able to elaborate on that a little bit. But just double check with regard to giving feedback, complete feedback with regard to your alternative assessment, final assessments. All right. So we covered those questions. Any other those issues? I think along the way we looked at. Let me just go back. We looked at what alternative assessments. We looked at how to prepare alternative assessments, and that's where we went into the stuff with the prompts and the rubric and all of that, to map out your alternative assessment. We created an alternative assessment with regard to the Turnitin thing we did just now in MyeLearning. Then we, in terms of monitoring student delivery of assessments, that is there when we went into the Turnitin assessment activity. And now, of course, now I saw no submissions, but when they are submitted, you'll see it in that table there, but that I showed you the student's name, the Turnitin ID number, and that sort of thing. The technical issues we looked at, in terms of having a contingency plan, I think Dr. Yewood mentioned having a Dropbox, just as an in-case kind of thing. Keep in mind you might want to consider an extension if some anomaly occurs. Yeah, what I recommend is even copying your assignment sometimes. Let's say you have students with disabilities. You might want to copy your make a duplicate of your assignment. And that's really, you would see that when you turn editing on and you click on the edit menu, you would see duplicate, and it makes a duplicate of your assignment. And you might want to set certain different parameters for students with disabilities. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. We spoke about the type of call on human resources we might need. For example, a technician, DSSD, SITS, CETL, and that sort of thing. There was, I think, one of the reasons, now there was a concern as well in terms of, and this is general across the campus, in terms of how do we go about grading students, and that's why we spend so much time on the rubric, because just because it's an alternative assignment, guys, you don't want to feel like you have to grade harder, you have to create a more difficult assignment, right? That's far from the truth. You want, once you have the criteria or the KPIs or whatnot, or the rubric, that kind of helps to level the playing field, right? You have to stay true to it and you have to be able to justify it. So if the student queries it, you have to show exactly where the student was strong and where the student fell short, right? So it's not just because it's an alternative assessment that you're going to show them that, make it hard. Don't give them the impression that it's easy, No, it's not that. You have to make sure it's fair and that you have good grounds for, you could justify whatever grade or mark you give the student, right? You have to be, because you might be held accountable for it. Yeah. And keep in mind too that, you know, they'll be going through these assessments with like a fine-tooth comb. Eh? So you don't want to kind of shoot yourself in the foot and then, you know, you get them all. They feel it easy. They think they get away because final exams and get them. No, you want to make sure it's fair to the student, and that's one of the things that they stated very early in the bus mandate. Yeah. So any questions, guys? Or any other questions, I should say?
Justin, Dr. Zephyrin, I don't think they have any other questions, and if they are, possibly also, if any comes up, would we be able to, in the usual way, send you an email?
Sure. You could send me an email directly, or if you have other issues, you could send it to CETL_BL@sta.uwi.edu. I mean, I would recommend sending it to me specifically because I work with you all specifically, so I'll know exactly what how to treat with each issue. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, I would recommend doing that. But if you have any other like a technical issue, because I will also see the emails in CETL_BL@sta.uwi.edu. But I would recommend sending it to me specifically, and that way I could see it a little faster and answer sooner.
Thank you so very much, Dr.
No
Zephyrin.
problem.
Let me take this opportunity to really thank you very much for going out of your way. This is basically out of your way for us, and it's not only, I really want to do so on behalf of the department, on behalf of everyone here. This is not the only engagement we've had with you. We've had several engagements, and really the spirit in which you've done it, and also, you know, your energy. And anytime we asked you, I remember in December last year, we asked you to host a Blackboard collaborate workshop. You did that. You were moving into having that workshop for administrative staff, part-time staff, and then after, you did actually have a part-time staff and administrative staff online. And I really want to thank you very much on behalf of the department for really going out of your way. So on behalf of the department, Dr. Zephyrin, thank you so very much for your continued engagement with us. And we have really benefited. We feel a greater sense of confidence in moving forward in this really very uncertain time for us, and these new kinds of engagement for most of us. So thanks again. And I'm sure all colleagues here are really very grateful for all what you've done.
Thank you so much, guys, and the pleasure is all mine. All right. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. And of course, if you need any help, feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll definitely keep in contact. I don't want to keep you much longer. So
Thanks,
right,
thanks,
so
Dr. Zephyrin.
You're most welcome. So have a great evening, guys, and I look forward to hearing from you. All right, and thanks so much for that, Professor Chidi. And hopefully we get to meet up again, whether it's virtually or face-to-face, to do to go further in this whole online or blended teaching and learning paradigm shift, right? So we'll see how it goes. Whether it's, you know, we have some other workshops that I think you might find interesting, whether it's games and social media and all these different things, cool tools in education and so on. So hopefully we get to do those things as things settle down. All right.
Yeah.
So
we
have
definitely
a great
look forward to that.
Definitely. So have a great evening, guys, and hopefully we see each other again, right? And have a great, feel free as well to shoot me an email if you need not just support, but to review any of your alternative assessments. All right?
Hi, Justin.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.